Hey y'all, it is me, Sonja, back again with another video. And this week, we're going to continue down this whole train of, anti-soft life. Well, anyway, last week I started talking about how I don't actually believe that we should be running after the soft life, because if we're placed on this earth, we're placed to do something amazing, and whatever amazing thing we're placed to do is going to stress us, is going to cause us problems, but it's going to be so worth it, right? So I began to talk through that, and I talked about the first step in intentional living, which is to acknowledge the dream that you have in your heart, the desire that you have to do something grand in this earth, right? Well, there are 3 more steps in this intentional living journey, and the next one is what we're talking about this week. We're going to talk about your why. We're going to talk about your values and how living by them is what's going to transform your life. I like to call it living by principle. But before I get into all of that, I would love to introduce myself. This is Sonja of SonjaWCoaching, where we help overwhelmed, multi-passionate women learn how to live by principle, execute by process, and win by practice, all by acknowledging the fact that they have a dream and their dream is worth it. I like to help women and also dudes, if you want to come on over, learn how to make your dreams meet reality. Okay, so let's break this down. Now, last time we talked a little bit about acknowledging our dreams and how is the fact that all of us have a dream that was placed in our heart that has to get done. Well, the very next thing to do is to actually figure out how you're going to live by your values. What are your values? What are the things that you want to live by that's going to help you get to that dream? And I love to call that the living by principle step in that process. Sometimes I call a process the still process, where we are the steps to intentional living. Real simple, right? So living by principle is really, the main thing is understanding your why and then living it out. Learning how to live out your why and live out your values. Now, I talk about this a lot of the times where we have 6 key relationships in our lives that we all should be cultivating, and that's the basis of our why. That's the basis of the principles that we live by. But thinking about all of this, it's cool to align your life with your values and align your life with your principles. But how in the world do you actually do this alignment? I think there are 2 main questions that you have to do or have to answer to be able to really set that foundation. And once you get these questions, you'll kind of get where I'm going when I talk about a GPS. Now, I play my GPS or start my GPS. What's the right verb? I don't know. But I start my GPS every single time I get in my car, even if I know exactly where I'm going. Why? Because it's so important to me that I have the best route, right? Well, that speaks on so many levels. I just thought about that. I start up my GPS so that I have the best route. Well, the keys to all of these things are going to be laid out these couple of weeks, right? You have your GPS. What are the 2 things that you need to know to be able to make your GPS work? Your GPS needs to know where you are right now, what's going on with you, where are you in the world, and it has to know where you want to go. And then with me putting it on every single time I go anywhere, even when I know where I'm going, I'm trying to figure out the best route. That's the next step. Executing by process. So we're gonna talk about that next week. Actually, over the next couple of weeks, we're gonna talk about this executing by process, finding the right route. And then finally, we'll break it all the way down with winning by practice. Once we figure out the right route, we gotta just keep practicing that best route, right? And that's winning by practice. That's how we continue to live intentionally in this world. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The whole point to today is to figure out your own GPS coordinates, where you are and where you are going. So again, those are the 2 key questions that you have to answer in your life, okay? So let's break it down. The first question, where do I want to go? Where do you want to go? Get real specific about it. Where do you want to go with your relationship with God? Where do you want to go with your relationship with your health, your mind, your family, your friends, your finances? Those are the 6 relationships that I'm always talking about. I'm going to actually put a link to, is it over here? Over here? I don't know. I'm going to put a link somewhere to that main video where I talk about those 6 relationships, those 6 key relationships. But that first question, it's so key and so important to figuring out where you want to go, because how are you going to get to the promised land? How are you going to get to your dreams if you don't know what the dream is? I love in Habakkuk 2, it talks about how this guy wrote down the dream. He made it real plain so that a person, a runner, can run with it. You can't run if you don't know the destination to where you're running. So it's so key to be real specific in how and what you want to do. And check it, I'm gonna give you a little bonus tip. Write it as if it's already done. Write it as if you're already with your key relationship in your family, or you're at your best health, or you have the finances that you desire to have. For instance, for me, I want to I want to be a millionaire. So I write, I'm a multi-millionaire who gives generously to my church and to charities and people. I give away cars. I write it in that manner because that's the big dream that I have for my finances. That's the big dream that I have for that part of my life. I actually don't even call my relationship with money finances. I actually call it my wealth building relationship because I want to build wealth. So that's a little insight on how I think. But that's the first question. Where do you want to go? Get real specific. And if you really want to get into it, make it present tense. Make it as if you're done, if you're already done. Now, the reason why I say that is because I read somewhere in a goal setting book a long time ago that our brain doesn't tell time. Our brain doesn't know yesterday from today from tomorrow. So if you write it in the present tense, your brain and your body begins to feel like it's already done. So you begin to live like that. For instance, I am a runner, or I am someone who eats healthily. Well, if that's something that you wrote, that is who I am, then you're going to begin to start to change. All of a sudden, you're going to want to eat more salad. You're going to want to run. Right now, I wrote, I am a runner, and that didn't actually work for me, and that's fine. I just say I'm a weightlifter now, okay? And it's working. I'm lifting weights like nobody's business, okay? But anyway, that's the first things first. Where do I want to go? Now, remember, with the GPS, you need 2 things, right? 2 things. You need to know where you want to go, and then you also need to know where you are. The GPS has to be able to tell where you are. So that's the second question that you have to answer. Where are you right now? Now, this question can kind of be hard sometimes because it's when we realize that we're nowhere near where we want to be. Sometimes it can even feel shameful because we're like, man, we should be further than we are. But that doesn't matter because today is today. And it's so important to know where you are today so that you can make moves to get to where you want to go next. So write it down. Write it real clear. Be really specific about where you are. There was a time in my life where I was writing about my health, and I was just getting off of a knee injury, and I felt really discouraged because that year I think I wanted to run a mile. Child, I realized I'm not a runner, and that's fine. Not everybody's a runner, okay? But anyway, that year I thought I was supposed to be a runner. So I had it in my life plan, and yes, I do have a life plan. That's where those 6 relationships go. If you want some help with that, holler at me. Link below. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. But anyway, I wrote that I was going to be a runner. I was going to be able to run long distances and blah, blah, blah. And I was coming off of a knee injury, and I felt so discouraged. But I still updated my life plan and wrote exactly where I was so that I knew where I was and where I wanted to go. And I was able to kind of start thinking about the process of how do I close that gap. We're going to talk a little bit more about that process in the next video, but it's so important to write down and locate where you are. Push past the shame. Push past the guilt of feeling like you messed up. Because listen, we're all imperfect. But the awesome part about it is that as long as the fat lady ain't singing, we still can go. And I don't see no fat lady singing. So you still got this. All right? Oh my gosh. But anyway, when you make it clear, it's gonna allow you to make the next execution steps a whole lot easier. You're gonna be able to decide the things that you need to do to close the gap between where you are and where you want to go. And that is the key to this journey, that you're always looking at where you are, where you want to go. How do I close the gap? Where you are, where you want to go, how do I close the gap? Now we're going to talk a little bit more about closing that gap next week. But those are the two main things that you have to establish in your life. I do recommend working that out in the 6 key relationships in your life. But if you just do that, like just generally, just write down where you want to go and where you are, that is just the first step in truly living intentionally, because you're intentionally looking at your life, looking at where you are, and deciding that you want to change it. And that's the key. That really is the key to it all. Okay? So listen, if you want some help with figuring all this out on your own, in person, virtually, you get what I mean. If you want some help and figuring all of this out, definitely holler at me. I got a link below so that we can set up a time to chat about it. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe so you can get to the next step, where it is executing by process. We're going to talk about that next week, okay? So anyway, y'all, I hope that this was a great video for you and that you have an awesome day wherever you are.